Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's episode, we'll be talking a little bit about the NFL offseason, and then we'll jump into our Royals preview for the 2024 MLB season. We'll be talking about starting pitchers this week, in the first of our four-part series as we prep for through spring training and the beginning of the baseball season. So right now it's a bit of a slow part of the year for all the sports really that we pay the most attention to. But as we're filming this, today is the NFL Combine, Mike. Would you say that you've dedicated more time to the Combine than you did the NFL's Pro Bowl? Or is it pretty close to the same
I
amount of
guess
your own efforts?
I guess I am done more with I don't know if I really paid attention to the combine itself, but I've kind of been getting into a little bit reading about some of the draft prospects. I did a couple of mock drafts online, uh,
Oh,
where
oh,
could
mock draft season is in full swing.
play play the Chiefs and see what you could get, and make trades and things like that. There are a couple of those websites. Have you ever done those?
No, no.
They're kind of fun. Basically, what I end up doing is accumulating tons and tons of picks and picking,
So
like
is it simulations with where you control everything,
you can control like the
or
Chiefs.
or are they like other people involved in this, so that other people are playing as other teams, and then you
It's
can
it's
draft
computer
against
simulated,
all
so
season? Yeah.
I think maybe you could do it. I don't really know. I've only done it. Pro Football Focus has one, but you have to pay for it now. And there's
Uh,
another one, Draft Network or some. There's another. I can't remember what website it is. But if you Google mock uh 2024 draft or something like that,
yeah,
you can it's mock draft simulator. You can pick your team that you want to represent. It has the picks. It has like a prospect list,
yeah.
and you can wheel and deal and make trades and see what happens. And yeah, it's kind of a fun way to waste time, and you kind of get a chance to see what players might be available around the time the Chiefs would pick if they um stand pat or see what people go early. But these are all simulations, and who knows how close these are going to be. But it's kind of fun, and just to be a GM type of person, or make trades, and you know um, you could trade up. I usually trade back and acquire additional picks.
Yeah,
This is how I did the old Bill Belichick strategy.
yeah.
Uh, but Brett Veach likes to trade up. He moves back too, but he likes to go up. Like they traded up to get McDuffie. They traded up, um, a few other times to get players.
But they
Uh,
kind of do both, sometimes in the same draft even, right? They'll trade up in
yeah,
some rounds and back in others, and yeah.
yeah, backing up. And I think maybe Rice was maybe a back and then an up or something. I can't. It's and
Yeah.
and they traded back. I think they traded up again to get like L'Jarius Sneed when they traded back, or a couple other players like that. So they get yeah, Veach isn't averse to moving things around, and it seems like his drafts have gotten better over the years. Uh, the earlier ones weren't as solid as the last few, which have been really, really, really good. So it seems like everybody who gets drafted, at least 75% of them for the Chiefs, ends up becoming a pretty major contributor, which is it seems like a very good.
Not just on the roster, but
Yeah,
important in some way, right?
yeah. And this past year, you had a lot of rookies that maybe you had Rasheed Rice, and you had some other guys in the secondary and things like that were big, or also the draft from the previous year with Pacheco and um Karlaftis, and Jalen Watson, a lot of the secondary guys, Brian Cook, they all became McDuffie, of course, all became big players for the Chiefs. So, it's been a good system. And so it seems like they're probably going to have to maybe get rid of a few players. Even though the salary cap is a lot higher maybe they originally thought, it's still not as high as it needs to be to keep everybody probably. So somebody like L'Jarius Sneed might end up getting traded. They announced today that they might franchise tag Sneed, which I would guess means that they're going to try to keep Chris Jones on a regular kind of contract deal. What do you think of that, possibly letting Sneed go if they can't get a long-term deal with
Yeah,
him?
I mean, I would rather see them try to keep both if they can, but I don't know how possible that's going to be because they're both probably going to get sizable contracts. Um, but yeah, I mean, if they seems like they've already put it out there that they're likely to try to tag him and then trade.
Yeah, that's what it
If they
seemed like
did,
today. It reminded me a little bit of the Tyreek Hill situation where they kind of moved very quickly, saying like, "Oh, we're going to give Hill a big new contract," and then suddenly we're open to doing other things with him, and then he was traded like that. So
almost
who knows?
immediately, yeah.
Maybe we can talk about Tyreek Hill. He's in the news again for other non-football reasons. But yes, so Snead, maybe they'll also trade Snead because they want to put more money into the offense. They might
Hmm.
try to get a decent free agent wide receiver, maybe Mike Evans or somebody like that would um, you know make an impact. Whereas the rest, the other wideouts this past season, other than Rashee Rice, were a little suspect, at least during the regular season. And
Less than sure-handed, I think would be.
yeah, and Mahomes had like fairly pedestrian numbers for him for much of the regular season. So, this is, I think the Chiefs did win the Super Bowl, but I think that they probably don't want to repeat that formula again, hoping to kind of limp through the regular season and then turn it on in the playoffs. And, I think that's not always something that's you're able to do.
Right. And you don't want to rely on that system for success.
And they're also, I think, might be a more all in on the three-peat chance than they were even this past year.
Yeah.
Because like the last couple of years were sort of rebuilding years or kind of treading water years in some ways in terms of the roster construction. Maybe they'll try to go for it a little bit more uh, this time.
Winning titles in your rebuild and off year is not so bad though as a franchise. That's
No,
pretty lucky era to be a Chiefs fan. That's really what
it
it
is.
is. Yeah.
It is. Um, oh, there were a couple of signings that the Chiefs made. Uh, Most notably, probably also signals that one of their players from the last few years is going to leave. Tommy Townsend's probably on his way out because he's looking for a bigger contract that might pay him 4, 5, $6 million a year, maybe the biggest punting contract out there with Drew Rosenhaus uh, as his new agent. But the Chiefs brought in Matt Ariza, formerly known as the punt god out of San Diego State, who encountered some legal troubles that he has since been, exonerated in, or at least not seen as being involved with. What do you think of that? What do you think of that news to sign Areza? He was a very good punter coming out of college. Then he was drafted by the Bills, but then dropped when those legal issues became known.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like once the lawsuits were dropped, that he was likely to be signed somewhere. I was not really expecting the Chiefs to be the one that signed him, but they have. So I assume he's going to be like a league near league minimum contract. So it's probably an excellent deal for the Chiefs. Yeah, we don't really know much about his character outside of what we saw in the media from stemming from the lawsuits and then his actions after the lawsuits were filed, which weren't so great to say the least, I think. So, um, I don't know. I don't really know what to think about it, honestly.
Yeah, I think well, it seems like it turned out to be some ways not I don't have much to do about nothing is the thing to say, but it was not something that it was something that he was kind of unfortunately kind of involved in, and then there was this kind of quick rush to judgment, and then you could understand why the Bills did what they did, but
Yeah.
um, you know, you,
Well, I mean, they knew the Bills knew that they were going to lose time from their player, at least anyway, if he was going to
yeah,
be under legal investigation that he was going to be suspended, and it doesn't do the team any good if he can't be on the field. So,
yeah. Well, yeah,
huh.
so we have, yeah, and so he was like, oh, but nobody picked him up last year, which was a little bit because even it's been several months now that seems like he has been not considered to be either by the prosecutors or even in the civil suit any longer. So it's you thought maybe somebody might try to get him for the stretch run or something like that, but
Yeah.
he did. But the Chiefs were, you know, I don't know how many other teams wanted to get him. You'd think maybe he'd want to play for the Chiefs over most teams anyway, simply because you have a chance to play for the number one team over the last few years to get a chance at the Super Bowl, and things like that. So
Well, a lot of times, like depending on what the contract stipulation was, like sometimes the player that or the team that drafted him still has some kind of rights to him even after, depending on how they released him. If they
how they released him, yeah, I
released him
think
before.
they gave him kind of a summer
Yeah,
release that was just like a regular cut out of training camp. So I don't think the Bills had um, anything left, but yeah, yes, but
yeah,
I think that the main thing I think though it does signal I think the end of the Tommy Townsend era because I don't think Ariza would have come in to try to compete for the job, especially with somebody like Townsend, who's former All Pro and one of the best punters in the league, but he's also a punter that doesn't end up punting very much. Um, Maybe the question is going to be how good a holder is Ariza. Um, Ariza, so he also was a kicker for San Diego State, so he was a good kick, but he's left-footed, so
mm,
uh, I think the Chiefs like having left-footed punters because they had Dustin Colquitt for so long because it puts a different spin on the ball than most right-footed punters, but you don't see many, if any, at all left-footed place kickers.
yeah.
The so if Butker was hurt, you'd have to do something very different to like the holder would have to be kind of a mirror image. And usually, I guess you would say Ariza would be the holder. So I don't know. Maybe you'd still have Justin Reed in there to kick extra
Maybe.
points or something. But I think Ariza could at least probably maybe do the kickoff duties, things like that. That if Butker went down,
Yeah, and Reed was okay though, and
yeah.
you don't want him to pull double duty if you don't need to have him pull double duty, right? Or
Do you remember who the emergency punter was for the Chiefs last year?
only because there were articles about it like late in the year anyway. It was because it was actually Mahomes, wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
it?
Shades
Shocking.
of
Yeah.
John Elway when he punted
Yeah.
sometimes for the Broncos.
Oh, one thing we didn't mention at the end of the Super Bowl, did you notice that who actually handed the trophy to the
Yeah,
Chiefs?
it was John Elway. He was
Did you ever hear why? Why was John Elway
I think it was the
the trophy
25th
presenter?
anniversary of Elway's back to back.
Super Bowl win. Okay.
And also I think Elway it was also because Elway has ties to um San Francisco because Shanahan, he had Mike Shanahan as his coach and Kyle Shanahan as the son. So I think that was probably reasons that he had ties to kind of the both the he's also an AFC West guy. They're in Las Vegas. Their
Yeah.
Chiefs are playing, so maybe there's that kind of uh connection. But
So did you find that a little bit more satisfying to have Elway present the trophy to the Chiefs? Like
uh,
after being a Chiefs fan during the Elway era, where the Chiefs didn't, win a lot of playoff games anyway. So
I
Was it a
guess.
little bit sweeter than having him present, or like because you probably thought maybe this was irking him somewhat, so that was like more enjoyable for you to watch, picking
I
him
guess
and
you
hand
could
the trophy to the
say he wouldn't
Chiefs.
want the Chiefs as a rival organization to be so successful, but
Yeah,
he already won multiple Super Bowls himself.
right.
And I guess as a GM, he brought in Peyton Manning, and they won the Super Bowl too. So like, it wasn't like the Broncos have had no success, but the Chiefs are currently on top, and maybe you want to stick the Broncos, rub the Broncos' nose in it a little bit. But I'm
Right.
not. I guess I didn't really uh I didn't really get any extra pleasure out of it. But I don't know. Maybe you do. I think you dislike the Broncos more than I do. I
Well,
just
back then especially, but yeah, they
yeah.
haven't been as, you know,
They did beat the Chiefs earlier this season, so maybe that was a
no,
little nice. The Raiders also beat the Chiefs earlier this season, so maybe it was
late in the season anyway,
unusually
right?
the Chiefs lost 2 games in the division this year, but that
Yeah.
was part of the reason. Yeah, because they had a fairly lackluster regular season. It seemed like they were gonna they needed to turn it on, but they never quite did until playoff time. Um,
So I guess there was a little bit more news on Russell Wilson. Apparently, he put his house in Denver up for sale.
ooh.
So it's possible that, you know, he already knows that he's moving on from Denver. Do you think that because he still owed his full salary from Denver, that he could sign somewhere for essentially league minimum? Do you think he's a future Chiefs backup quarterback?
No, I don't think he's gonna go to be a backup anywhere. If he wants to be a backup, he could be a backup in Denver. I think since they're already paying him. I think someplace like Pittsburgh might be a place where he would could end up. I think he'd be an upgrade over Pickett or Mason Rudolph. Maybe if Kirk Cousins leaves Minnesota, that would be a place to go.
I guess Pittsburgh's been linked
Atlanta.
I guess there's talk that maybe, if the Bears decide to keep the number one pick, that their current QB may be headed to Pittsburgh as one
Yeah,
of the
Fields might. Yeah, I've heard Fields maybe to Pittsburgh, maybe to Atlanta. There's
yeah,
a few different teams that need quarterbacks that aren't really in positions to draft quarterbacks.
right.
You could maybe even see him in New England. I think if New England is number 3 pick, I don't if they want to say like, well, we'll take Marvin Harrison Jr. rather than one of the quarterbacks because there seems like there's 3 top quarterbacks. Um,
Yeah.
and whether it's Caleb Williams or Drake May or Jaden Daniels. I think Drake May is just going to be another Daniel Jones or Trubisky. He's a quarterback from the state of North Carolina who like came on as a Johnny come lately kind of 1 year starter wonder and hasn't done anything else. But that's who I think he's most like. But some people really think he's like a Justin Herbert. I think Jaden Daniels people think is sort of like a Justin Fields or Lamar, and Caleb Williams supposedly is the next Mahomes, according to some. But
Um, you would think whichever team drafts Marvin Harrison Jr., you'd think that they would try to get a veteran quarterback
yeah,
pair with them then, right? So they're not
yeah,
having to start from scratch
you don't
every
want
year.
Bailey Zappi maybe thrown into or Mac Jones.
It's just a wasted year, really, right? If it's
Yeah,
a retread sort of, borderline replacement level quarterback pairing with this, presumably elite new receiver, then it's just a waste of a season.
yeah. I think even I don't know. Even if I were Chicago, I would still think about staying with Fields, trading down, getting more picks. Because usually, if you trade down, even like if you have one, you could even trade down to 2 and to because Washington's going to want to have their choice rather than pick what's left at number 2. So you would be able to get at least one more first round pick if you trade down the 2. And then if you want to trade down from 2, you could trade down to 7, 8, 9, something like that. They already have 9, so like they could get like 3 first round picks this year and next year. It seems like they could get a ton of capital if they traded down. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
and if they
and
want somebody like Harrison, then they could drop. Maybe they could drop two
they could drop
spots
to get him, yeah, at
and
number
then
3,
take
and then
Harrison.
Fields could throw to him.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't know if Fields is the answer, but he's at least 2 years or 3 years developed in the way that the other quarterbacks won't be. So you're setting the clock back again,
Right.
and you
With
don't you
with
don't know
with
if
a,
they're
with a coach that you're not necessarily knowing you're going to stick with either. So it's
yeah, and you don't know if he's going to be any better than what you already have, and
yeah. That's why
Fields.
Houston was a great like coaching spot last year, is because they had all the draft capital and they got to like basically reset everything all at once. Where
Mhm.
like the Bears probably it's not a great situation as a whole because you don't know if the coach is going to stick around long because weren't really impressed with him after his first season. I don't know. Just don't know. Just don't know how good of a shape the franchise is in.
Yeah, and they're trying to build new stadium out in the suburbs, I think, and that's not going so well. It's like what the Royals are doing. It's not. Some of that's not going so well. I guess the Chiefs have they recently unveiled kind of new plans for Arrowhead, right? Did you see any of
Hmm.
those?
I heard they did. I didn't actually see anything though. Every article that popped up for it had like no. It was like part of a video or something, but
Yeah,
it wasn't. It wasn't anything actual like uh substantial. The renderings were released. I just saw the headlines is all, but
yeah, I didn't really see much either. Um, I don't. We talked about Matt Arises legal troubles. Do we want to talk a little bit again about Tyreek Hill and his issues that he had with his injuring of the plus size influencer in a supposed fit of rage during football drills that he was holding with her, where she was a lot bigger than he is. But he's being and that happened apparently in June of 2023, the same just a few days after his encounter with the marina employee. So he didn't have a great month of June 2023. Do you think Hill is going to face any disciplinary action? This is a civil suit, so it's not nothing criminal has been charged against Tyreek for breaking was it Sonia Hall? Is that her name?
Sophie Hall maybe was
Sophie
it
Hall. Yeah, I think that's it.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Sophie Hall for breaking Sophie Hall, and she has 2 million Instagram followers, breaking her leg during this drill after supposedly she embarrassed him by pushing him down or back during one of these drills. But
Yeah.
yeah, Tyreek's not. He's not staying out of trouble
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing that this didn't get any publicity. But I mean, I hadn't heard anything about this until today
until today. Yeah,
when the lawsuit apparently was filed. So, yeah, apparently she ended up with a couple of screws in her leg and maybe, yeah, a fracture that required some surgery. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know on this one either. Yeah, it seems like maybe, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's going to be, criminal charges. Now it's, at least you're getting approaching a year ago when this happened.
yeah, yeah. I think it's just this is. I think it's yeah something that
Probably won't be any like league disciplinary action for this either, but
yeah, but
probably
it's
going to
not.
cost them some money though. I would
Yeah,
assume.
it's not good. It's not good publicity for the Dolphins or for Tyreek. But yeah, the Chiefs are maybe looking okay that now that they've they won two Super Bowls in a row. They a lot of their players that were contributors were you know part of that draft haul that the Chiefs made. I think they still have a fourth round pick this year
Is that right?
that is from the Tyreek Hill trade, so they'll have somebody get. I don't think the Chiefs have any late round picks. I think fifth is their fifth round pick is their last one, so they have like maybe only 5 or 6 draft picks this year, at
Wow,
least
that's
so
crazy.
far. They don't have anything towards the back end, but um, yeah, I don't know any other NFL or Chiefs news that we want to talk about the combine. We do have well, I guess one Chiefs adjacent piece of news, which was Eric Bieniemy taking uh, an offensive coordinator job, but not one in the NFL, an offensive coordinator job with UCLA. Deshaun Foster is former running back, NFL running back, is the coach now at UCLA because Chip Kelly left UCLA to go to Ohio State, but not to become the Ohio State head coach, to become the Ohio State offensive coordinator because apparently he was tired of NIL deals and recruiting and maybe giving rousing speeches, things like that. So he was somebody who just wanted to draw X's and O's maybe, and so he became an offensive coordinator. What do you think of the anyway, what do you think of the Bieniemy move to UCLA? What does that tell us?
I mean, really, it's just how screwed over he was by Washington by not allowing him to go like look for jobs early enough in the cycle. It is unfortunate that he's had to go down to the college ranks to find a position, and it's not even a head coaching position then too. So you think maybe you could get to the NFL as a head coach by going to college to be a head coach, but yeah, this is I think this is just Washington jerking him around enough that this is like what he's had to deal with as a consequence of it. Did I mean he's going to be. I assume his team's going to be very good offensively, though, knowing how he's been as a coordinator in KC.
Yeah, it's hard. I guess you don't know what talent. I don't know exactly what UCLA looks like. They're going to be in the Big Ten for the first time this season. So this is
No,
because the Pac-10 was going to be gone. Half of it went to the Big 12, half of them almost went to the Big 10, and a couple remnants of Oregon State, Washington State. Who knows what's going to happen with them? But
Pac-2.
Pac-2, and those playing each other every week for 12 consecutive weeks to go
I
to see.
assume, yeah,
I wonder if they could do that. I wonder if that would be a
like 10 weeks in a row, and then they have a championship game.
yeah, because could one of them possibly make the playoff that way?
Well, I mean, did you see the new 5+7
Yeah, it's a 12 team playoff,
college
so
playoff
yeah.
tournament? Yeah, so it's going to be the five conferences, which includes the Pac-12.
Yeah, what are they going to do with that? I don't know what the the fifth conference just going to be the fifth ranked conference because it can't be the Pac-2. Maybe it's the
I don't
Mountain
know.
West
Yeah, I don't
plus
understand.
two. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, the winners of the five conferences plus the seven next highest rated teams in the rankings is the what the plan is. Is that right?
I think there's a group of five champion that has to be in there too. So I think there has to be a mid-major uh,
Oh,
in that 12.
okay. In the remaining seven, though, right? Because
Yeah,
the
yeah,
five are the conference
yeah.
champions. Yeah.
hmm
So
So there's going to be like the
uh,
MAC champion or the Mountain West or whatever
the
the
chances are, it was one of them to be ranked in
Conference USA,
12, right? So
AAC, I guess it's called now. Yeah.
yeah, usually at least one of those schools is in the top 12, right?
Yeah,
So
usually you'll have, well, a lot of those schools became like Big 12 members though, because like Cincinnati or um, BYU, Central Florida,
right.
they're Big 12 now.
Yeah.
Where's it South? Yeah, I guess was it South Florida, not Florida,
Central Florida, Central Florida
Central Florida.
is in the Big 12, yeah.
So South Florida is still outside. So they've
Yeah.
had good teams before.
UCF is the
UCF,
Big
yeah.
12 member now.
I guess Boise State is still outside.
Yeah.
But yeah, Utah was once out of that group too before it joined the Pac-12, and now it's gonna be in the Big 12. So yeah, I guess we'll see how it works. But I've also heard that they might switch from 12 to 14 or 16 very soon for the playoffs. So the 12 might not even be around very long.
But it is supposed to be like next season, the
Next season, yeah, I think they
2024
moved it up. I think
season
at
that
one point it
this
was
will
supposed
start.
to be after the 25 season, but it's been moved up.
But they needed like a unanimous vote, I think, and they got it from what it sounded like. So
Yeah, I think it makes more money. I don't think anybody's gonna be
yeah.
against it except
Yeah.
uh, um, yeah. So that's guess I think that's probably covers our football. We have a few weeks to wait still for the UFL to start. So
Right. Almost a month. It's like the end of March.
end of March, yeah.
Which I
Uh,
thought that yeah, they usually started it. I thought the XFL was supposed to start like the week after the Super Bowl, so it's kind of surprising that they're waiting this long.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to
Um,
build up anticipation. I'm not sure, but
Have you heard any
Yeah,
stories about
or
the
they're trying to coincide with baseball, sort of.
I don't know.
Do you want to move up? Do we want to move on to baseball? Talk a little about the Royals. Uh, Begin our four-part spring training Royals preview. Today, I think we're going to talk a little bit about the proposed or possible starting pitchers that the Royals will line up their starting rotation, which looks to be, I think, at least from first glance, maybe will be better than it was last year. But sometimes when you get new players that come to play for the Royals, they somehow start to sink toward the Royals level and are not as good as they were wherever they played before. So it's hard to say how successful the team will be. But
Perhaps a
I
great
like
example of that is Royals' current starter Jordan Lyles.
Jordan Lyles. Yeah, he was never very good, but he was exceptionally bad for the Royals last year. I think he was 6-17 with a 6.28 ERA.
He actually led the league in three categories last season. Can you name the three categories that he was the league leader in?
Well, losses, I know.
Yes.
Was he the highest ERA?
Yeah, that one's tough because there's always like somebody that has a ridiculously high ERA.
But be able to qualify for the title though, is he the highest
It's it,
qualified?
it wasn't that though, so don't.
Okay.
But a related stat though,
Um,
because he had so many innings pitched,
was it
and his
WAR?
ERA
Was he
was so
lowest?
high.
Was he the lowest in WAR?
I don't. I'm not sure about that. I just.
Maybe hits allowed.
Well, I mean, his ERA was really high, and he threw
So
a lot
run,
of innings. So
I guess runs allowed,
yeah, earned
earned
runs.
runs allowed.
And the third category is shocking, Mike. Shocking what the third category led the league in was.
Complete games.
Sarcastic. What?
Complete games.
That's it. I think he had three or four complete games last year. That was actually like the league leader. And
Wow, he probably pitched a lot of. He probably lost a lot of those games. They were probably like 8 inning. Uh,
three complete games was enough to share for the league lead
Tie the league lead. Okay.
in
Well,
complete
pitching has
games.
changed. I guess you want to use them and not waste your bullpen if you're already losing. So
Yeah.
just throw Lyles out there. But since we're talking about Lyles, Lyles maybe slots in as the fifth starter for the Royals, you think, this year, or hopefully not. But kind of worst case scenario, he seems to be at least to open the season as number five.
Well, they're paying him as a starter, so I mean they're gonna want the value for the contract at least anyway. So I think they're not gonna move him to the bullpen, but I think that slots him in the rotation for sure. Now, a statistician type person would say he can't be higher than five, but the Royals tend to make some weird decisions with how they order their rotation, roster, bullpen, everything, lineups. Everything seems to be crazy with him. If it's not five, I won't be surprised. But five seems to be like where he should slot.
Since we think that Lyles is five, do we want to work up 5-1 and then talk about uh, maybe the outliers that might challenge Lyles, or do you want to talk about the people that might challenge Lyles for his fifth spot first?
Let's go 5-1 and then challengers for the
Okay.
guys trying to break the rotation in, I guess, right? Yeah, let's try.
So do you
Who
think
do you
the
think is going
four?
to slot at number four then?
My guess is my guess is going to be Seth Lugo. Uh, he was he's I think 34 now. Older guy, so little. None of the Royals starters or possible starters are that young. Like it seems like they are, but like they were all drafted like 4 or 5 years ago at least. So they've all been out of college mostly. So like 26, 27 is the youngest, which is much younger than we are, but it's not really young when it comes to Major League baseball, especially
Yeah,
if you're a phenom. You're gonna be 21, 22, 23 as a starter. Um, but Seth Lugo, he was pretty good last year with the Padres. Uh, and what was he, 8-7, 3.57 ERA. He has a decent
140
career.
strikeouts and 146 innings. It's pretty close to
Yeah.
one inning. That's pretty decent for a major league starter. That's a solid starter, not just a fringe starter.
Yeah, so I think probably if Lugo could be the number four, I think that's pretty good for the Royals. He was uh unlike the rest of the possibilities, he was a low round draft pick originally. He was a 34th round draft pick. I saw that
Yeah,
the Mets in 2011 picked. All of the rest of the guys are first rounders or maybe second rounders as at the lowest that are potential starters. So like, you think that's it's a lot of talent that they're throwing at the problem, the Royals anyway. So yeah, I think if Lugo could be a solid starter, that I think the Royals would have a good shot at least not if not contending, at least looking decent.
yeah. My assumption though, you think he's probably the four starter. My guess is that he's probably going to be the two starter for the Royals. It's my guess.
Who do you think's gonna be four then?
My guess at four is probably Singer. I think
Singer?
actually, yeah. But I mean, the Royals, like the way they make their decisions doesn't always,
Hmm.
you know,
Well, if
mostly
Singer's
it's
the four,
defined
I
by
think that's also okay. If he's
yeah.
well, if Singer's your fourth best pitcher, that's probably pretty good, unless he's
And
really
that's
bad.
mostly because of its consistency
Yeah,
problems
he's been
for
up and
Singer.
down. He was
ESPN has Lugo as the as the one
ESPN's Lugo was the one.
as the depth chart. Yeah,
I was looking at the Royals.com. It looked like he was number four on the depth chart, so that's why I thought of him as the fourth guy.
and if he's the four, that's pretty good. I mean, I think the
Mm-hmm.
rotation's looking pretty solid if he's the four.
Because I thought of his former teammate Michael Wacha, from also from the Padres last year, is he's a bigger name than Lugo, at least and he had a better season than Lugo did last year. So I was thinking Wacha would, and he signed for a bigger contract than Lugo did. So I was thinking
Yeah,
Wacha would be the higher starter than Lugo. So I don't see, yeah, that number one for Lugo doesn't make much sense to me. But
yeah. I don't understand how they came up with that either, but I mean, I just assume that Waka is going to be the one because the Royals tend to go with history over potential or even what they think is currently best. I think they used Greinke as the number one starter the last two seasons, even though he wasn't anywhere close to, the same skill level as the other guys on the roster. I don't, and he wasn't going to go deep in any games, but he was still the one starter.
yeah,
It seems to be they reward history and longevity over maybe some other more important
sometimes. But maybe I still think Reagan's might be the number one. He was the best for the Royals last year down the stretch. He was the pitcher of the month in August, I think.
Yeah.
He's 5-2, 2.64 ERA and 12 starts for the Royals. Former first round pick by the Texans, by the Rangers, and they just got him in the Chapman was in the Aroldis Chapman trade was where they got Reagan. So he was uh, yeah, I think he had been injured some, and then finally seems like he's maybe rounded
Well,
into the form that they
the,
thought maybe he
the
would.
Rangers had really stacked their rotation with outside talent, and he'd been sort of demoted to the bullpen, had a couple of bad appearances in one season, and then they, I guess, didn't have room for him anymore. So the Royals were really lucky to end up with him. But
Yeah, yeah, he
yeah,
was really good. He's a left-hander too, so he's the only is what is he the only
80,
lefty?
89 strikeouts and 71 innings last year with the Royals. So that's pretty solid. Well over one strikeout an inning. That's pretty good. Much better than what the Royals are accustomed to, at least anyway.
Yeah,
Much better than what we tend to expect,
yeah, and
especially with an ERA that low, 2.64 on the season.
yeah, um, yeah, he was fantastic last year,
Yeah.
and I think I think if he can be a similar pitcher, he's I think isn't he he's the only lefty too, right? In the potential, it's in what seems to be the possible rotation. So that's also an advantage for I think for Reagan's uh,
Yeah.
to have.
Yeah,
But
some of the sort of lurkers around the maybe cracking the rotation as the season goes on are I think are left-handed pitchers though too. Like Daniel Lynch is a lefty,
oh, Lynch is a lefty. That's right.
but he doesn't seem to be, in the rotation to start the year. He'd been injured a significant amount of last season, and like Chris Bubich also.
Yeah, he's a lefty as well. If he comes back, and but he probably won't be around until maybe
June, July at the earliest.
June or
I
July.
think he
Yeah,
had
he's
his
on the
first
60 day.
bullpen session this week, so he's on the road to recovery at least anyway. But it's this,
Yeah.
not a super fast path.
Bubich was one of three first round draft picks by the Royals in 2018. The Royals had four first rounders because of compensatory picks and supplemental picks. Do you know? So it was Bubich, Singer, and Lynch were three. The fourth, you remember who the fourth one was? He was just traded.
Hmm.
That was Jackson Kowar, uh, traded to the Braves for Kyle Wright, who is
Right.
also going to be injured this entire season, so he won't be around until next year. He had shoulder surgery, I think. I don't think it was Tommy John. I think it was shoulder,
Yeah.
which is usually a little worse to recover from than elbow.
I
Um,
think it takes longer to get the strength back in the shoulder from like
but
a
yeah, Jackson Kowar has already been traded again to the Mariners. Had you heard that?
I did not know.
No, he's on the Mariners now. He's
Huh.
not on the Braves any longer. He was on the Mariners for about 2 weeks, I think. I mean on the Braves for about 2 weeks, and now he's on the Mariners.
So do you think the did the Braves get a good return for him though? Is
They
it somebody
got it was
that
it
the
was part of
Royals
a
could have just gotten?
multiplayer trade. I don't
Oh,
remember
okay.
exactly who it was, um, who they traded for, but with the Mariners. I don't think the yeah.
I
Um,
hadn't heard that. Yeah, that's funny.
I just saw that today. Um,
Oh,
but
it was a multiplayer. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that was back in December. I think we didn't know about that because that was that Jared Kelenic was part of that deal, and he was supposed to be like one of the Mariners' top prospects that hadn't panned out exactly as they'd hoped, I think. And then yeah, so he was, I think, supposed to be a potential star and hadn't really developed into that in his couple years in Seattle, but seemed like that was one of those things that like the Royals knew that Kelenic was available. Why didn't they try to go get him rather than let him go to Atlanta
well, I guess
for
they
the same
wanted
trade?
I guess they wanted right, and maybe they wanted to wait until the next year, and I don't know. But maybe they would have had to give up somebody better if they wanted uh Kalanick. So
No, but yeah, it's a much different rotation than last season with like Brad Keller no longer on the roster.
yeah, where is
Zach
Keller? I think is
Greinke.
still out there. Is
Um,
he? You think
Keller
he's?
and Greinke are both still free agents, unsigned.
I wouldn't be averse to bringing either or both of them back as
They may work their way back to the roster. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising if they did,
yeah.
especially if there are any kind of injuries.
Well,
I
you
think
need about 7 or 8 decent starters to get yourself through a whole year usually because somebody's going to go down, and usually sometimes it's for a month or two. So
well, so they have Lynch, who's had some starting experience that should be around. Maybe he'll be in the
mhm.
bullpen to start the year, or
Alec Marsh maybe.
Alec Marsh is still around. Yeah, Bubich should be back like late in the year, most likely. Like he said, Kyle Wright's out for the season. They still have Carlos Hernandez,
And
who
Hernandez
had
was a
pretty
really
good
good
starts a
starter when
few
he was a
seasons ago.
starter. They
Yeah.
kind of jerked him around, but he was pretty good as a starter, I thought. it wasn't was it in 22 where he started several games and he was um and Carlos Hernandez is still only 26, so he'll
I
be
think he
27
came
in
up, I think,
12 days.
during the COVID year even.
COVID year.
So
Yeah, he started
and he was
3 games.
pretty good then. And the next year though, 2021, I think he was pretty solid.
Yeah, 2021 he was 6-2, 3.68 ERA, 11 starts. ERA plus of 124 that year, and then he didn't have a very good year in 22. But he didn't start any. Yeah, but he was bad in 22, and then he wasn't very great last year. He had a lot of losses, but he didn't. He only had a few starts.
Yeah. I think some of those starts were like opener starts then too, which
Yeah,
is, deceptive.
yeah. He was 1-10 last year, which is record, but I think that might be again. He had
It's a bit
yeah. So
deceptive.
the Royals had a lot. They were one of they lost 106 games last year, and that was after kind of a late season comeback that brought them only down to 106. It could have
Yeah.
been over. It could have easily been 112 probably last year the way the team played. So
Right. But it was
um,
still underperforming than what their, Pythagorean
yeah,
projection.
Pythagorean they were only I think maybe 100 like maybe a 98 loss team or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere there.
They were fortunate, I guess, fortunately or unfortunately, I guess only better than the A's last year, who but they couldn't parlay that into a high draft pick this coming year. So
Yes,
where's the first round? It's like number 7. They get them. It was something ridiculous. It wasn't
they should have been
2.
and they fell to like, yeah, 7, something like that. And then they drafted poorly. Poorly, Mike.
Well, that was last this past year. Those when they got 8th, but we don't know who they're going to draft next year for number 7. So
Yeah.
I haven't followed the prospects list, but they either need a good pitcher or a good hitter, and I don't know which or both. Uh, and they need the next Shohei Otani, I think. But
Yeah.
who is back now? He hit a home run in his first preseason exhibition game. The Royals have done pretty well in exhibition games so far. I think they're 4-2. Do you think
Yep.
that will correspond in any way to season success?
I think as we talked about last week, it's you just don't want them to have a bad spring because then they're definitely going to have a bad year.
Yeah,
But yes, I don't think a good spring means anything for the regular season at all. But
I don't know either. Yeah, but I do think though I like the rotation this year better than I did last year, simply because I think Waka and Lugo are both proven commodities. I think Reagan's is a good player. Singer has had his moments, and there's enough kind of people there that can maybe cobble together a fifth starter. So I, I cautiously optimistic for the
well,
starting
and
rotation.
maybe we won't be using, an opener bullpen game, like a scheduled bullpen game every week like we did last season. It seems like they
Yeah,
have weak starters to avoid that scenario. Of
yeah,
course, then, but even with what the seeming improvement, though, the projections don't really show them looking that much better. I think their projected WAR from the starters last year to this year, they have in the same position, 26th in the league, and projected WAR over their last season's actual WAR from the starting position. Does that concern you, or do you think projections mean nothing at this
I
point?
don't think the projections mean a lot.
Yeah.
I think in some ways the projections just kind of go off what happened last year, and they were really bad last year. And I don't think they'll be that bad this year. I don't see it. I think having a whole season of Reagan's, I doubt Reagan's will probably be quite as good as he was, simply because it's hard to be that great unless you're a really, really top tier pitcher. And we don't know if he could be that, but we don't know if he is or but if he's, he had 2.6 ERA for the Royals. Like even if he's 3.6, that's really good. And Waka was under 4. Lugo was under 4 last year. So um,
Well,
Singer,
the big difference really, yeah. So you kind of expect Reagan to sort of like relax a little bit towards the mean. Hopefully Singer goes up towards the mean,
yeah,
which would sort of like they would be kind of a wash. The big difference though is I think is that Grinke is gonna be there and the expectation for Lyles is much lower. So, having Waka and Lugo hopefully is better than Grinke, right?
or Keller wasn't. Yeah, last year
Yeah, and
was
Keller
had an
hugely
off year.
underperformed. Yeah. I think the team did that to him though. I don't think that was his own trajectory. Because that was, he was the number one starter and then he lost the job for no reason. I don't
Yeah.
I don't think that helped with his mental state.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think the Royals pitcher use or lineup use or anything was very good last year. I think Potrero hopefully will have learned from his mistakes somewhat and maybe figure things out this year. Maybe it was just bad first year jitters or something, but I'm still I don't know if I'm as optimistic this year as I was last year, but I think because I didn't think the Royals would be that bad last year.
Yeah.
I thought the Royals would at least be sort of 70, wins in the 70s, losses in high 80s, low 90s at the most.
Yeah.
And they were 15 games worse than that at least. So I'm not predicting a lot for this year, but I do think the start I do think they'll be better than last year for sure. And I think the starting rotation looks kind of objectively decent to me. But
Maybe middle of the pack, maybe in the American League, somewhere
yeah,
in the area, not at the bottom, I don't think.
in middle of the pack in the American League means sometimes challenging, maybe even for the Central Division. Uh, but I don't know. Cleveland was down last year. They'll probably be better this year. Detroit, I don't know. White Sox, I don't know. But Minnesota is probably still the team to beat, I guess.
Yeah. Minnesota tends to underperform when they have expectations, and they're still
Mhm.
spending money, so it means they're probably going to have another off year.
So who knows? The Royals could, if the rotation, so if they pitch as well, like so if Singer pitches like it was 2022, Waka and Lugo pitch like they usually do,
Close to last season stats.
close to last
Yeah.
season's Reagan's pitches close to like shows that last season wasn't a mirage. That's a really good rotation, and it's
If Reagans can do that for the whole year, he's an all-star,
mhm,
we'll get votes for Cy Young.
yeah.
So,
So
but
you
you
heard it
only
here,
got half
you
the
heard it here
season.
first. Andrews Cap predicts Cy Young for Cole Reagans or
Cy Young votes.
Cy Young challenging for the Cy Young. Yeah.
Possible. If he extended what he did last season to a full year, he'll be in contention for a Cy Young. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think we
2.64
should just
ERA for a year. Yeah, he'd be up around 200 strikeouts. That'd be an amazing year. Maybe the best pitching year for a Royals pitcher starter ever if he had those kinds of
well,
numbers.
since at least since Greinke's Cy Young, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Or some of the great AP or Saberhagen
Saberhagen sort of years,
years.
right? Yeah.
David Cohn had a
He'd be
couple of
up in that, you know, area if he put up those numbers for the whole year.
yeah.
Man,
Well,
you think he'll do that?
I doubt it, but who knows? It's spring. Everything's still possible. The Royals could come out on top in the division and uh the challenge the powers of the American League this year in the playoffs, but it's still early. I don't yeah, my expectations are lower than they were last year, so I'm not but I can't help but think that the rotation doesn't seem to be the weak spot right now in the for the of the maybe we'll go through the uh, bullpen and then infielders and the outfielders, and we can kind of figure out which of those four areas is the weakest. But I don't think it's going to be the rotation. And that historically, it seems like it has been the weakest. In which having, if you have the rotation, unless you have like HDH in the bullpen, having the rotation as the weakest is not a um, good omen.
And it is another area that they spent a lot of the offseason working on was adding to the bullpen. So on top of the
Yeah,
rotation.
yeah. So they the pitching, hopefully the position players will just continue to develop, or at least get over the slump maybe that they were in last year. So well, so we'll do the preview of the bullpen next week. Do we have anything else to add for the starters this week, or?
Yeah, no, no, I don't. I think that's pretty good primer for the our first shot at this anyway.
I agree. I agree. I think we both have learned something and come out as better people. Just learning about the Royals pitching staff this year, and we hope that our viewers have or our listeners have as well. So I think maybe we should wrap up this week's episode of the Warren Truck Power. A shorter episode, maybe this was actually under an hour, I believe, this week, or at least close to it. Um, so we either we apologize to those who are used to our 2 hour marathons, or we will punish you less with our shorter broadcast this time, depending on your point of view. But uh, as always, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the One Trick Power Hour. Please like and or subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast, and you can catch every episode that we've had. We have dozens and dozens of episodes on our archives now, and this is, of course, our fourth season, so we're really humming along, even if we don't have as many followers as perhaps some of the more popular podcasts. But hopefully, you guys are sticking around for us. And on that note, we thank you again. And until next week, we'll wish you a good day.